let's start from the beginning.
And this is on a motion to vacate a void judgment.
Yes. Okay.
Okay.
The judgment was it was set aside February of last year, February 20th last year. So he set it for a mediation, and I put in the I put in to vacate it because they arrived at the decision without any sworn testimony, sworn affidavits, any fact witnesses, competent witnesses testifying. So all it was the Natherpour and Associates. They was like testifying, instead of having a fact witness or some type of sworn affidavit. So it was all like hearsay, like third party hearsay coming from Natherpour and Associates.
Was this resolved at mediation, Mr. Thompson?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
Was this resolved at mediation?
No, no, it wasn't. No, it wasn't resolved. We didn't have a mediation because of COVID, due to COVID. But
Gotcha.
but I was just I just wanted to vacate the whole order, being that it was like they didn't have the evidence. They didn't prove their case of the damages, being that they didn't provide a fact witness.
Okay. Johnson, would you like to respond?
Yes, Your Honor. We did file a verified motion to strike the defendant's motion to vacate the judgment as moot. There was a judgment that was signed by the judge, Judge Davis. It looks like on February the 20th of 2020. However, that judgment itself, it didn't show up on the docket, and it wasn't, I guess, recorded until recently on looks like July the 14th. But the judgment has been set aside, so that's why we believe that the motion to vacate judgment is moot.
I'm gonna stop right there. Now, the wording, he was saying competent witness, competent fact witness. He should have just simply said the original. Hold on, people are trying to get in, of course.
Can't hear you.
Oh, y'all can't hear me? Hold on.
I can.
You can hear me?
Troy can.
Yep, loud and clear.
That's better now.
I hear you.
Oh, that might have been your computer, brother, because nothing changed it over here. I'm talking right into a mic.
It's always my computer.
Yes, it is, because the other person said they can hear me.
I see.
I
I hear you.
too.
Who else can hear me?
I can. This is Antonio.
Right. Okay.
I can hear you.
I got
Theodore
you.
can hear you.
I can hear you
I
too.
can hear you.
No,
Things never change.
we got a unanimous decision. The way he expressed himself in court could have been better. Like, Your Honor, what we have here is attorneys making testimony against me, basically slandering me. They don't know me. I have never met these guys before. They might be nice guys. I don't know. But right now, I'm offended that they're coming into court saying I did something without bringing a proper witness into court that I can question under oath to the facts here. So he could have said that. Then the attorney comes back with he wants to mute he didn't. Now, the reason why I read the motion, you notice he didn't say anything about the meat of that motion. He didn't say anything about the competent fact witness. Oh, yeah, we did this. We muted it because it was set aside. So he decided not to challenge anything. So let's keep going here. All right.
Okay, so there was no additional judgment that was entered after the motion, after that particular judgment was set aside.
Yes, that's correct, Your Honor. After after February the 20th of 2020.
What?
Okay.
I'm sorry.
And so basically the case was, I guess because of COVID, nothing happened on the case from that time until this year.
Okay, so then why did you file for garnishment if there's no judgment?
And Your Honor, that was an act. Well, it was a mistake.
Y'all notice he's starting to backpedal, right? He's trying to ice skate backwards right now. Listen.
For some reason, it was showing as still an active judgment in the court in the plaintiff's case file. And so we filed it, and when the defendant filed the objection and we did further research, we immediately did a voluntary dismissal of that.
Okay.
Yeah. See, if he had not filed that motion, they wouldn't took his money. His job would have gave up his bread off of that order that was set aside. And they knew that. They just wanted to take advantage of the fact that he may not know what he's doing. They wanted to take advantage of him. They didn't know that he's part of the Hindsight team. So they figured they could pull a wool over the court and sneak attack him, and he wouldn't know what to do. But let's go. Let's keep listening.
So basically, just so you understand, Mr. Thompson, there is no judgment to set aside. The case is open. So they're not entitled to anything right now. They haven't won. You haven't won. The case is as...
So you got a money rejection complex, and this is why it's tough for you to make money, because you believe that it's something wrong with thinking about money a lot. What you think about is what you will become. If you want more money, you need to think about more money, having it already. I'm in abundance. I have it all. You have to have that consciousness about yourself. I mean, the proof is there. People who think about not having money are in poor conditions. They live poor because they simply believe in poverty. They're not believing in it like, hey, I love my poverty. No, they believe in it in ways by saying, I'm broke. I don't have a lot. I wasn't born with a lot of money. My family don't come for a lot of money. We don't have it like the other people got it. See, they speak to their poverty, whereas the wealthy speak to their wealth. You know, today I'm thinking about going and investing in this. I'm gonna buy some property. Oh, what's going on with this company? You think that's a good idea for me to invest in that? They're having these conversations. I heard something that made total sense to me. Testing. All right, there we go. All right, it's working now. I don't know. It's like when it start off, for some reason there's a glitch. It won't. I have to close and open stuff back up to get it to work. That's why I'm testing now before I go in. You know, I wanna today we're talking about the 4 stages of the ego. 4. But first, thanks for everybody who's tuning in here on this Sunday, February 16th. It's 16 days into February. A month and a half of the year is down, 2025. We did January. Now we're halfway through, basically 12 more days of February. A little more than halfway through. And I do realize that it can be challenging to stay on those goals. I know why. I know because it's challenging for me at times. And a lot of times, the reason why it's challenging for me, just my own personal experience, it's just like sometimes I just procrastinate. I put stuff off, and next you know, it's easier to put stuff off, and then the more you put it off, the longer you take. You know, it's not but it's very easy to form bad habits because we've been programmed to fail. I like to say we were born to be superstars. We were born to be prosperous. We were born to be successful. We were born ordained to have greatness. But when we came into this society, into this matrix, we were programmed for failure, reprogrammed for failure, reconditioned for failure through the societal norms that we accepted, through our education, through our religious structure. I got some slack last week because that video I just played called the money rejection complex. Oh, you always talking about money, yes, I do. So what? I talk about money a lot, but I also talk about other things. I also talk about how you need to become like Christ. Talk about that a lot too. I'm not going to sit here and justify why I talk about money. Those of you understand why I talk about money a lot, you get it. You hear it. You understand that prosperity is your birthright. Prosperity is what God ordained you to have. In this current system, under the rule of the current governmental structures that we are intertwined with, money, currency is the game in order to exchange goods and services. This is what people accept when you have to pay your rent. This is what currency is, what the landlord accepts for rent. The bank accepts for the mortgage. The store accepts for paying your bills, getting your groceries. The gas station when you need gas in your car. The electricity when you need lights or you want to power your electric vehicle. In this current matrix, money, currency, circulating currency is the vehicle or the tool we use to survive. Why is that? Because that's what we accepted. The governmental structure set it up, and that's what we accepted. Yes, we can go get a swath of land off somewhere off the grid and just live off the land if we wanted to. But unfortunately, for most of us, it's too inconvenient to do that. Not too long ago in this country, that's how our families lived, off the land. I remember when I looked up on the archives and I pulled out the census of my family, my great aunt Lou, her actual name Lula Mae Barber. And she was one child of many children, 6 other children, I believe. And everyone, their occupation on that census was farmer. They were farmers. So they lived off the land. But what happened? Like herself, her brothers and siblings decided they didn't want to farm anymore. They wanted to leave the country. They wanted to leave Winsboro, South Carolina, and immigrate to New York and live there and buy homes, get jobs, and support other people's businesses and help them thrive. Why did they do that? Because the education system taught them, learn this education so you can get a good job. It didn't say learn this education so you can go back to your home and manage a farm. Now imagine if it was taught that way. It taught you how to survive off the land. You wouldn't need grocery stores. See, it was all designed. We're going to get to the ego, but I have to talk about this. I don't have to talk about this, but I just want whoever's listening that don't like me talking about money, you could take yourself somewhere else and listen to somebody you enjoy listening to. Bye. Because I'm going to talk about that money, because this is the current system we live in, and we need it to keep our bills paid. Because this is where we grew up in. This is the environment we know. Unfortunately, I wasn't taught how to farm. So in order to learn how to farm and live off and do homesteading and live off the land, that's a whole nother school that I have to teach myself. That's something I have to go and teach. I'm not gonna go anywhere and they're gonna teach me that. I got to go and find a plot of land to even do that in. And then I can't do it by myself. I got to get other people that want to do it with me. See the process? See, I was programmed to be in this system of going to school, getting education, working for someone, and then take the money that I buy and buy my goods and services for other people who have manufactured and produced them. And they manufacture and produce these things with a lot of chemicals in them. But that's a whole nother story. But I just like to address the ones that don't like, that have a money rejection complex. I don't have a money rejection. I have a money acceptance complex. I accept. I'm happy that God has blessed me with the circulation of currency through my hands and out to for other goods and services. See, when you see these types of attitudes, you're gonna have this. When you start presenting and you start living well, you start speaking well, you start emanating a certain way about yourself, you're gonna have these these types of issues or comments that come your way. It's just part of the package. So what? People got opinions all the time. I don't teach and expect everybody to like what I say. But what I would expect is, hey, you're gonna interact with me on a level of respect and consideration that I give you. But anyway, ego. And see, and that's ego too. That's another reason why the lesson. Because when people come at you like they're better than you, like you're wrong and I'm right, that's ego. What makes you better than me and what makes me better than you? Because I have something to say. Largely, a lot of this stuff is just my personal experience. And from my personal experience, I draw out opinions based on what I've lived through. I know one thing, everybody's got bills to pay. Everybody. But let's talk about it. First, before we talk about the ego, we have to bring this over here. Before we talk about the ego, can y'all hear me loud and clear? We have to define the ego. Oh, reminder, March 1st and 2nd, I have a seminar in New York City. I left the link in the Telegram app. I also will share it through email again. You can click on it. It's on my Calendly link, and it'll take you. You pick the day. Now remember, the price is for 2 days. Okay, the price is for 2 days, not just one. I hope to see you there. All right. What is the ego? Let me pull this over here so I can read this to you. The ego can be defined in multiple ways depending on the context in which it is used. Here are some key definitions. Psychological definition, Freudian perspective. In Sigmund Freud's psychoanalytic theory, the ego is the part of the mind that mediates between the desires of the id, which is instinct, and the moral constraints of the superego, conscience. It operates based on the reality principle, balancing impulses and societal expectations. 2, spiritual philosophical definition. In spiritual and philosophical context, the ego is often seen as the false self, a mental construct that creates a sense of individuality and separation from others. It is tied to identity, self-image, and personal attachments. 3, everyday definition. In common usage, ego refers to a person's sense of self-importance, self-esteem, or pride. It can be either healthy confidence or excessive arrogance. Modern psychological view. In contemporary psychology, the ego is understood as the conscious self, the part of us that thinks, makes decisions, and interacts with the world based on personal experiences and beliefs. There it is on the ego. So when we talk about this ego, a lot of times we don't realize we're operating on that. And we operate on it out of the ego on a daily basis. See, the egoic on a psychological material sense, on the physical sense, outside of the spiritual sense, wants to be right all the time. It wants to judge. It wants to have this superiority over others. And we have to be careful because we could fall into that category easily. Like we might go into someone's house and it's a mess. They're not keeping their house like we would. Oh man, these people are dirty. Just pass judgment on them. We don't know those people experiences, why their house is dirty. They might not have never been taught properly how to clean a house. Or in their mind, that condition is okay. See, we have to be careful how we look at others in their condition because we really don't know the story of that person. No, I don't want to live in a messy house, but that's me. So, in me, for me, I'm going to keep my house clean for the most part, right? But I can't go around, oh, that person, and put these people down because their house is messy. No, not to say that I'm just, want to visit messy homes deliberately and just be around that. No, you don't have to be that. But at the same time, you don't have to judge people for it. See, our ego will put us in a place of judgment easily. You ever talked, you just be in conversation with people and they're talking about something or someone. And then you can't really tell. They are talking about someone else, but then when they're talking, you're listening, you say, wait a minute, everything they're saying about the other person, I recognize the same thing in you. I recognize this same thing you're talking about in you. And guess what? We're all not all guilty of that one. Like I have talked about certain things in other people, but then when I stop and I really pay attention, wait a minute, that's the same issue I got. Why is that? Because it's so easy to see it somewhere else than to see it in ourselves. But if to recognize something in someone else means there's a level of that same issue or thing within you. Just say takes one to know one. That old saying. See? So those now here are some scriptures that could kind of that speak to the ego. It says Philippians 2:3, do nothing from selfish ambition or conceit, but in humility count others more significant than in yourselves. Now, I like this scripture because, and it's something that I've been trying to practice, that I'm putting into practice. When people are speaking, even though they may be speaking on a topic I find the better conversation happens when I pretend I don't know anything. And I let that person have the power of that conversation in sharing the experience of what they know. Even though they might be telling me something I already know. But guess what? When you stop and you really, really listen thoroughly when people are talking about something, even though you may know most of what they're talking about, they always have an ingredient that you don't have in that same situation. So in that regard, they do know more than you for that particular instance. We sometimes get in the practice of, we hear people saying stuff, oh, I know this already. Why is he talking about this again? Why is he saying this and this and that? But if we just quiet our ego and say, you know what, I know I heard this a million times, but let me just listen and allow this person, like the scripture says, in humility, count others more significant than yourselves. Because there's a reason why people share stuff. Because they want to feel like they're sharing something with them. They may feel like they're helping you by telling you this. But sometimes we shrug it off as no big deal. We don't take what people seriously. But I have made this mistake where I have not listened to someone thoroughly, and then when I go back, wait a minute, there was something I really needed to hear there. See, we have to be careful. That egoic self is always in that background or in the forefront, trying to take over and dominate. Matthew 23:12, for those who exalt themselves will be humbled. Those who humble themselves will be exalted. The ego seeks self-exaltation, but true spiritual wisdom comes through humility. Oh, this is a good one. 1 Corinthians 8:2. Those who think they know something do not yet know as they ought to know. That's exactly what I was just talking about. Times where I thought I know something, but I didn't know everything. I didn't have the whole picture. See, everyone has a unique experience that they can bring into your life. And we should be meek enough to allow that person to bring that experience and share that with us without judgment. That's why I say, I talk about, yeah, that's my experience. I realized that I have to keep my consciousness on money as I do many other things. If I want the money to flow right, I have to think about it in a way to keep it flowing. Because then from those thoughts, action comes. Do not think of yourself more highly than you ought, but rather think of yourself with sober judgment in accordance with the faith God has distributed to each of you. This verse reminds us to be mindful of ego-driven self-importance and practice self-awareness. That's important. We have to be self-aware, admitting where we need to make some corrections, period. So let's get to the 4 stages of the ego. The ego evolves and manifests in various ways, often influence our thoughts, emotions, and action. Here are 4 key stages of the ego to be watchful for. The unconscious ego, ignorant stage. I believe that unconscious stage is probably the majority of humanity is on that level, where they don't realize where they're coming from, that what they're doing is ego. Like, for instance, I see it in this instance in particular. When we get new information and we get uplifted by it and we feel like, hey man, this is it. This is the truth. And then we want to share that truth, which we believe is the truth. Hang on, let me shut this thing off. What we believe is the truth. We want to share it with others, which is natural. We want to share what we think will help others. But truth be told, most people don't want your help. They don't want to be told what to do. They don't want to be told that their idea is not as good as the one you're presenting. So we have to be mindful and let people figure it out for themselves and not get upset. I remember when I was, we call the conscious community. Wow, everybody's sleepwalking. They're this and that. They don't want to know the truth. They don't want this. And then we pass judgment on those people. We shouldn't allow ourselves to do that. We're being unconscious about okay, now you just picked up on this new information. Now you realize that you need to walk a different path, and now you believe everybody else should walk a different path. But it don't work like that. People find their unique path in their unique time, in their unique way. The calling comes when they are ready. Just what happens, you're ready. And you're going to get distracted when your calling comes if you sit there and you're trying to convince others of the truth. The Bible even doesn't even support that. When Christ sent his disciples into the cities, he said, if they welcome you, bless that house and go in. But if they don't welcome you, shake the dust off your feet and keep it moving. You did your job. You made the initial contact. They didn't want it. Move on. We don't have to judge them. You bid them farewell. You bid them peace. You just say, blessed be to you, and you move on. We don't have to sit there and struggle with people to hear what we have to say. I'm learning that more and more. To just sit in settings and just let people talk. Although it might be something you may not agree with, you don't have to tell how much you disagree. There's no other way to realize how that could be annoying is to be in the presence of someone who always disagrees with you. But see, you will never see that until you sit and you observe and you be quiet. And then you start to say, well, maybe, wow, that's how that is. You start, then you'll recognize it in yourself. Say, wait a minute, just, I don't have to be right. All right. This stage is marked by a lack of self awareness. I agree. The ego operates purely out of conditioning, attachment, and survival instincts. That's how most of us are behaving, out of just pure conditioning, attachment, survival instincts. That's why a lot of people will say, when it comes to money, man, I'm broke. Things are hard. That's social conditioning. You're social conditioned to speak that way because you hear other people talking about it. Man, there ain't no jobs out here. Can't find nothing, man. The job market is this. The job market is that. Business is bad. Social conditioning. Not realizing those very words that you're uttering is actually perpetuating and reinforcing that negative condition. You are co-signing the problem. When you see something that appears to be bad, and then you decide to speak on it through the ego and say it is bad, you just confirmed. Wherever two touch and agree, there I will be. So we have to look at these scriptures in duality. Yes, wherever two touch and agree it will be, to wherever two touch and agree, there I will be, works both ways. See, if you touch and agree with God and all the prosperity and goodness of God, there he will be. But if you would touch and agree with the devil, and we're not talking about a physical devil, we're talking about the devilish words, the devilish thinking, you touch and agree that there it will be. See, we've been programmed and conditioned to look at these scriptures one way. But there is one way you can look at these scriptures too, and there is one way that God is good all the time. Right? You hear that. God is good all the time. Meaning, God is good on his word all the time. If you support and co-sign and contract with the negative, you're gonna get exactly what you ask for, what you connect with, what you associate with, what you want, what you're talking about. That's how God is good all the time. He made it so good that when you touch and agree on something, you're gonna get it. So be careful what you're touching and agreeing on. These situations we find ourselves in, whether it be bad relationships, financial hardships, it's all because we decided to touch and agree on something in some form or fashion. See, when you take the blinders off, the ego off, and you start to see, wait a minute, a lot of my issues from originate from my ego, not seeing it for what it really is, and allowing the ego to create an illusion of what it really is. Signs: reactivity, defensiveness, seeking external validation, strong attachment to identity and opinions. See? That's the unconscious ego. You see people, if you have something bad to say about them, or they perceive what you're saying as negative, oh, they get up. Oh. I have learned when people give me opinions of myself, yeah, sometimes I address it, sometimes I don't care. I say, hey, listen, you don't like what I say, you can go somewhere else and appreciate what someone else is saying. Don't make yourself suffer sitting here listening to me and you don't agree and it's bothering you, it's getting under your skin. Don't put yourself through that agony, that stress. Allow your ego to be offended or get you offended. Leave. I know me. If I'm in a but I don't agree and it's getting, I'm gonna remove myself. I'm not gonna go there and try to fix them. I'm going to fix me. See, the ego thinks you can fix others. There's only one way to make your world better is to fix yourself. And there's only one way to make the world better is to fix yourself, not others. Can you assist others if they solicit you? Yes, but even then, in most cases, they're not listening because most people are asking you for help under the ego of, I need to hear something from you that aligns with what I already believe. You realize that, right? Most people come ask you questions to get you to see if you agree with what they agree with. And if you don't agree with what you're saying don't fit that narrative, they'll put you to the side and continue to go till they find someone that they can connect with. Birds of a feather flock together. People who talk about money problems will flock to other people with money problems and talk about it. People who have financial success will flock to other people with financial success, and they'll talk about that. Yeah, I'm talking about money again. Money, 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 money. All right, let me stop. All right. The inflated ego, pride stage. Here, the ego starts to build a sense of superiority, entitlement, or self-importance. It feeds on achievement, recognition, and comparison. This signs arrogance, dominance, the need to be right, resistance to criticism. Are you resistant to criticism? Are you resistant to self-accountability? I know all of us have had this issue. I believe 100% of the mankind has been involved in resistance to criticism. Now, there's one thing to be resistant to criticism, and then there's one thing where you have someone who is always criticizing you. That's a different situation. Building a sense of superiority. And that's what I was talking about earlier, how we get on this information and we start to feel like we feel like we're more enlightened than others, and we want to spread the news and they're not accepting it. That's a feeling of superiority. Then there's an alter ego to that too. There's people who believe that they are sinful or sinners. They don't deserve God's kindness. That's a form of the ego. Because God didn't create you to be feeling that way about yourself. God created you to be great. Two, you are great. It's simply you may not believe it. You've allowed society to tell you if you don't pass certain tests or you don't reach to a certain stature in society, you're great. Or the guy with more money is better than you. It's not true. The person with the better looks is better than you. Not true. The person that maintains their weight better than you. That's not true. Because there's some people who have some weight on them that are pure angels. And there's some people that don't have a lot of money that are pure angels. You see, everybody is where they want to be subconsciously in their life and whatever they're going through at that point in time. And when they decide that they want something different, they feel like they could have something different, they'll change. It's not our job to force people into change. Our job is just to show up when a person wants to help them, support them when they want to change. We're just there for support. I've noticed that by keeping quiet, you'll hear somebody talking like, oh, and you said, I noticed some things, and you don't say anything. You know what? A lot of times in the next 2 or 3 conversations, they bring that very thing back up and they point that finger right back at themselves. You know what? I realized something. Why? Because I did not interfere with their thoughts. And then they started to think to themselves, and then they came to a certain self realization that you had picked up on. You just sit back and wait. People will get it in time. Patience. The fragile ego. That's the one I was talking about. The fragile ego where people believe themselves to be sinners. The ego becomes defensive when faced with challenges to its identity, leading to insecurity and anxiety. It seeks constant reassurance. Signs: oversensitivity, victim mentality, fear of failure, excessive self-doubt. This is one of those things that I notice. You notice this in social media, where you'll see people posting themselves, but most of the stuff they're posting is themselves and from different positions in their face and look at me and that they're looking for what you call reassurance by someone clicking a like. Oh, look, somebody like my picture. Somebody like the way I pose. Somebody like what I got on. Look. Now the question that I would have to ask, I'm not criticizing it one way or the other. I'm just mentioning what is the payoff for that? And you got to remember all of these likes of people, most of them are strangers for the most part, superficial. What's more important? What's more important is that you like yourself. Because what that kind of puts out there, what it puts out there is that we don't have the self-confidence to be liked within ourselves. So we have to put something on the internet to see what other people's approvals are. See the dependency that we creating? And if someone don't press that button, you start to self, why they ain't like it? What about this picture they didn't like? Let me see if I can do another one. See how the ego works? Excuse me. See how the ego works? How it can create a maze of confusion? The most important person that should be concerned about a like is your own like of yourself. Because if once you become full in that, whether somebody says they like you or not, won't even matter. You won't even be seeking that type of attention. And these situations can become highly addictive and highly distractive to your goals. If you're worrying about somebody pressing a button to the point that it puts you in a state of confusion and depression and self-doubt. For transcending the ego awakening stage, This stage involves recognizing the ego's influence and beginning the journey of self awareness, humility, and inner peace. Signs: acceptance, emotional balance, openness to learning, detachment from external validation. And this is the stage you want to reach where you don't require external validations. If your husband or wife that don't validate you, you can still feel okay and you could be fine. If someone doesn't give you validation or appreciate you, you'll be fine. The whole part of the story of Christ, not the whole story, the part of the story of Christ is to recognize that you could come and heal the world and people will still not appreciate you. But are you doing it because for the appreciation? Or are you doing it because you truly want to make a difference and help people? Because if you're in the space of I'm just helping people, I'm you know, just doing my part to help, if you don't get the appreciation or validation from people, the validation and the appreciation comes within. The power of the good feeling of what you're doing comes within. Whether they say thank you or not, it won't matter. And that's called transcending the ego. That whole story was all about ego when it came to Christ, right? Like they really accused him of a lot of things, and his ego didn't allow him to even defend it. And because he didn't argue with them, the Pontius Pilate said, "Hey, I don't find fault with this man. I can't find anything wrong with him." But that didn't come from him trying to talk to him and to convince him of who he was. He let those people present themselves. It was the actions of the people that came with the accusations that convinced them that these people were liars. The liars exposed themselves by their own words. Christ didn't have to do that. And we could put this another way. The truth exposes itself by just being that, the truth. Anything else that speaks against that will reveal itself to be a lie in time. Like, look how history is revealing itself now. They told us many lies in school about our history. And you have to ask yourself, why did they went through so great lengths to give you a vision of the Native Americans as being savages? And not only did that, they went deeper. They gave you a vision of how they looked as the Native Americans or American Indians, right? So you had this perception that these particular people who looked like this were savages and they were scalping and they walked around with these skirts on made out of horse hides or whatever. And they had primitive tools. Think about the mind, the programming in that. I want y'all to pay attention to what I'm about to say. Think about that. When you see documents that paint people a certain way and when they look a certain way, and then you realize that even the whole story from how the people looked was a lie. Because the names that they gave them was artificial names. It wasn't the original names of the tribes, right? So let's take it deeper. Are y'all ready? Some of y'all may know this. The true people of God, the true tribes of Judah, the true tribes of Israelites are the dark-skinned people. Oh, Akeem, you're crazy. What are you talking about? They are. Well, even their own science have inadvertently told you the truth. When they found this so-called original woman who was a black woman, Lucy, and all mankind comes out of her. So what does that say? What does that say? Even in their lies, they tell the truth. What does that say? Y'all can look up Lucy, Lucie. Look her up. It's a black woman. So if that black woman, according to their words, not mine, I don't even like to use the word black because that denotes nothing of any type of nationality. But I'm going to use it for the sake of people who are not really understanding the truth. Again, what does the ego have to do with all of this? It has a lot to do with it because the ego of the perpetrators of this lie is what they created to deceive you into making you think, to downgrade your thinking about yourself and make you think you come from the lowest of humanity when you come from the absolute apex, the starting point, the cornerstone of society. You are the anchor of society. You are the foundation, the base of society. And all of them know who you are. It was you that don't know who you are because you chose to believe those school textbooks, those fictionary books. Yes, what they call them black African American, the dark skinned people are the people. And if you read the Bible, you see the connection. And we're still living under exile. But the Bible also says that's going to change, and it is changing. Some people will reject it. That's not for them. They're not going to make it. And the ones that accept it will make it. Understand your power. And I'm not speaking from superiority. I'm speaking from what the facts show. I'm going to read that Latter-day Saint document on the show Tuesday, where they said Native are the people of the tribes of Judah. They said that, right? And most of the people that they're painting as, what we call white, Caucasian, and, as our prominent people of society were actually like Beethoven. The description of him was he's a dark-skinned man. Well, I gave you a bit of history. Along with this talk about ego. See, it's the ego that created all of these lies. Because certain people couldn't accept that that the ideas that they're living out is coming from the very people that they're oppressing. All of the great inventions. You don't have to believe me. Go look it up for yourself. See, that's why I love going to the archives. Even in the archives, they show you these original, what they call Native Americans in Africa. They show you what they look like. And there was a National Geographic some years ago, I would say about 15, 16 years ago, they did something called The Human Race, and they did genetic studies, and they traced everybody back to the darkness. And I'm going to leave you with this. And I've said this before, and now it's like becoming almost mainstream. People are not, I wouldn't say mainstream, but people are talking about it more. It's not the light you should be walking towards, it's the darkness. Because everything good comes from darkness. The whole world was created from darkness. Started off dark, and right? When you're in your mother's womb, that's darkness. I've said this in my show probably 8, 9 years ago. And now I see a lot of people talking like, no, it's not the light. Because remember, who was the light bringer? Lucifer. And as the scripture said, the devil has transformed himself into an angel of light. Now think about that. Now, what I just said these last few sentences was all from, spiritual knowledge, a higher knowledge. I'm not going to take the time to expand on that, but when you really look at darkness, in darkness is where you get all your revelations. When your eyes are closed and you're looking in the dark eyelids and you start to get all your inspiration. It's the darkness where the truth is. Whatever's in darkness comes to light. The truth is always revealed in darkness. What's up is down, what's down is up, what's left is right, and right and left. What's north is south, and south is north. And what's east is west, and west is east. And I'm going to leave you with those riddles. And y'all have a good rest of y'all Sunday. Peace, prosperity, and extreme wealth to all of you guys. Have a good Sunday. Peace. So you got a money rejection complex. And this is why it's tough for you to make money, because you believe that it's something wrong with thinking about money a lot. What you think about is what you will become. If you want more money, you need to think about more money, having it already. I'm in abundance. I have it all. You have to have that consciousness about yourself. I mean, the proof is there. People who think about not having money are in poor conditions. They live poor because they simply believe in poverty. They're not believing in it like, hey, I love my poverty. No, they believe in it in ways by saying, I'm broke. I don't have a lot. I wasn't born with a lot of money. My family don't come for a lot of money. We don't have it like the other people got it. See, they speak to their poverty, whereas the wealthy speak to their wealth. Today I'm thinking about going and investing in this. I'm going to buy some property. Oh, what's going on with this company? You think that's a good idea for me to invest in that? They're having these conversations. I heard